New York Democrats are turning on their beloved face diapers, even showing a willingness to ban them on subways. But will this solve their crime crisis? Well, I've got my Fox News pal, Todd Piro, on deck to discuss that and more. Plus, the magic mind trick games over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continue as Democrats triple and quadruple down on their promotion of elder abuse. And later, the rules for the CNN debate have been announced, and shocker, they are designed to help Ice Cream Joe. Well, that and whatever drugs they pump him up with. But the show starts now. Folks, I never thought I'd see the day when Democrats would turn on their most favorite inanimate object, the face mask. Well, thanks to a totally avoidable crime crisis on city subways, New York Governor Kathy Hochul is considering a ban on those face masks. Cover your ears, COVID warriors.
We will not tolerate individuals using masks to evade responsible for criminal or threatening behavior. My team is working on a solution, but on a subway, people should not be able to hide behind a mask to commit crimes. Protesting is not a crime in our state. Legitimate protest is part of freedom of speech. We also protect that. People cross the line into criminal behavior, threatening behavior, that's a different ballgame altogether.
There are green-haired liberals who will now be unable to leave mom's basement if such a face mask ban were enacted. But as much as I hate those face diapers, I highly doubt a ban would make a damn bit of difference in crime deterrence. Because you see, first, crimes need to be punishable. We know who most of the thugs are, masked or not, because most of them have been arrested more times than we can count. In just a minute, I will be joined by my Fox News pal, Todd Piro. Right after this break, we'll see you in a minute. All right, the long-awaited second meeting of Todd Piro and I today, this time on Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick. I want to bring in my friend for a second round of Tommy Tuesday. We'll call this Todd Tuesday. Todd, it's great to have you on my show, and now I get to ask you some questions.
I know, and you have a lot of runway because you have a little bit more time to grill me than I have time to grill you. They give us sometimes as little as hey, we got to fit Tommy in 2.5 minutes, go. And I'm like, how can I do that with the great Tomi Lahren? That's impossible, but they make me do it. For you, Tommy, I'm giving you as much time as you will allow. I am here in my house, ready to rock.
Well, I appreciate that, and the good news is I speak quickly, so usually we can fit it into those 2.5 minutes, but we have much more time here, and I've got a lot of questions for you. So first of all, I know you don't live in New York City, but you work in New York City, so my intro there, I was talking about the potential for a face mask, or as I refer to them, face diaper ban on the subways, because this is their genius plan to cut down on crime. Maybe if we can see who the thugs are, maybe they won't commit these crimes. Do you think this would make a big difference in the city that you work in?
I think it actually would. And I have been on the Tommy face diaper bandwagon here for a while now. You don't see them really around. There's a few people, random people walking the streets of New York City. But by and large, in the subways, if there are a lot of people wearing these things, yeah, that can obscure their face as they're trying to do some shenanigans. And so I think it makes sense, but it underscores the ridiculousness of the mask and the masking culture to begin with. And you have been great about that. I mean, from the get-go, you have been on that. If you don't wear these things properly, it's not going to do a world of good for anybody. And even if you do wear them properly, they're not perfect. At the end of the day, they probably keep you from giving your disease to other people, but they're not perfect in preventing you from getting a disease. But with the way we are right now, I mean, any kind of surveillance video, Tommy, that we show on our show, what's the common theme? Everybody's wearing a mask that's doing something wrong. And so I think kudos, I guess, to the governor for finally coming to her senses and say, hey, we might need to stop crime here in this Big Apple if we want, New York, the state, to have any tax base. There are other things she could do, Tommy, as you and I both know, that are probably going to be more effective than removing the face diapers, as you call them. Actually have police officers in the subway. And when you arrest somebody, prosecute them.
Well, that's
I think
the key.
those two things are probably 1 and 1A, and then maybe masks are a distant 2. But anything you can do to make that city better, they need to do, because, Tommy, you said it. I live not in New York, and that is by design. When my job is done, when I am no longer on the clock for Fox, I get the heck out. My family has not been in the city in years. There's no need for them to be in there. We're fine here in Connecticut, living amongst the trees, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine living in that city. I can't imagine working on a daily basis in that city either, especially how early y'all go to work. I can't imagine the things that you see around there. But speaking of these face diapers, you know, it's great anytime you want to ban a face diaper, but if we already know who the criminals are and they've been arrested numerous times, we know who these people are, and then they just let them right back out. I mean, I don't care if they're wearing a mascot costume at this point or not. It doesn't really matter if you're not going to arrest people, or if you're going to arrest people and then let them back out. But, you know, speaking of masks and facades and smoke and mirrors, we talked about this a little bit this morning, but the White House seems to be quadrupling down on the cheap fakes, deep fakes, that these videos of Joe Biden on that stage being helped by his visiting angel, former President Barack Obama, are just some kind of a right-wing conspiracy theory that we're not actually seeing this. And it's amazing to me because they put out their own video, and the video shows the same thing as the right-wing videos. So how much longer can they try to convince people that we're not seeing what we're seeing, Todd? You asked me this morning. Now I want to ask you.
I know. Quick aside, you mentioned the visiting angels. Every time I see one of those mashups, I feel horrible for laughing, but I laugh anyway because they are funny. They show Joe Biden entering the White House in the song, Visiting Angels, America's Choice for Home Care. And I crack up every time. So thank you for reminding of something that brings me joy. But I guess the underlying story actually really upsets me. And I think this isn't something that is being said. Karine Jean-Pierre, whether she calls it a deep fake or manipulation or crafted fake or whatever she's got, that's a lie. We played literally as much of the footage as we could until the end on multiple platforms today. And to your point, it's the same every time. And so when she stands up here and says news outlets on the right are manipulating it, no, you're accusing us of doing something that would be a lie, and we are not doing that. And I'm proud of us at Fox for fighting back against this. I know you don't like the optics of the video, but to call us out and say we don't adhere to the standards of journalistic integrity, that's wrong. And let me tell you something. When we put together a newscast, we actually think about the video. And the video has to have appropriate clearances. And it needs to be edited in a way that is not manipulative. We pride ourselves in that in this business. Maybe they don't in some of the other shops, but we do. So we're not going to put anything out there that is manipulated. And for her to accuse us of that really upset me. I'm sorry. The video speaks for itself. Joe Biden is being handled by a younger relative. We all have those relatives that are older. They need some guidance. Karine Jean-Pierre said they're like family. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing. Son Barack Obama guiding old man Biden off stage. And if that's not good enough for you, we have plenty of other examples from just last week, Tommy, that demonstrate that this man is in bad shape. He's in bad shape. Normal, probably 80-year-old, but he is in bad shape. Well, and, I saw this with my grandmother. Yes, please. Sorry.
Well, no, I would say even the other video that they said was manipulated because it didn't show Biden talking to the skydiver or whatever. Even if you show him talking to the skydiver, if I'm talking to somebody, I'm still not wandering over to them and like hunched over and frozen, just kind of staring at them. Even that video, when you show the full thing of him apparently talking to somebody else, it still doesn't look right. It still doesn't look like he's going over having a normal conversation. It still looks like he's wandering away, and they clearly felt like they needed to corral him in that video too. So all these charges that were manipulating it, and then some of these Biden influencers who I have been pressing on a daily basis, asking them if they're paid by Biden PACs, David Hogg being one who tweeted out, this is a lie, that Harry Sisson person saying that the Biden videos, these are lies. I mean, I just don't know how far they can go with calling these videos lies. I feel like, Todd, they're actually doing Joe a disservice, because when they call these videos lies, people go and rewatch them and they see the same thing, and it draws more attention to it.
I think you're right, partly. My concern, and I think you are always so good on our show, bringing reality to a robust discussion. And I want to bring some reality here, because by those influencers putting that out there, if they have some young viewers or followers, those videos that they put out there, which are a lie, don't get me wrong, what they're saying is a complete and utter lie. But that could convince somebody in a swing state who just got the right to vote to say, the right is deceptive, Joe Biden isn't this bad. And so you're always good about, hey, Republicans, don't spike the football. You haven't won anything yet. You still need to get out the vote and so on and so forth. I would say Republicans still need to be ruthless about pointing out that this isn't just dishonesty and not niceness from Karine Jean-Pierre. This is a horrific lie, because it involves the health of somebody, and she is manipulating it. And she's the one that's doing the manipulation. And she's openly lying to the press corps when they're 4 feet in front of her. And it has to be called out, and I'm happy that you're doing it.
Well, there's another video of Biden. I don't know if Karine Jean-Pierre is going to call this a cheap fake or not. I'm sure they have some spin on it.
Cheap
but
fake.
Apparently, Joe Biden, it appears to me that he is barking, like actually barking at reporters. I don't know how you caption this, but I have the video. I don't know what Karine would say about this one, but let's play this cheap fake.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, will the lack of a war habit are you worried about the war habit? Are you worried about the war habit?
He's laughing at himself. I mean, I don't know. When you watch these videos, Todd, are you still laughing, or have you moved on to just being embarrassed? Do you feel badly for him? Because I have a mixture of emotions when I look at that. My first instinct is to laugh, but then I don't know how to feel. I'm conflicted.
I have a different take on this. And again, I am by no means a medical doctor. I am by no means a neurologist or anything like that. All I know is through my own personal experience. That's all we bring to the table, right? And I remember when my late grandmother, God rest her soul, was in the throes of Alzheimer's. The doctors all said they exacerbate how they were and their approach when they were younger. And my grandmother was an overly loving individual. And so when she was in the throes of Alzheimer's, she became effusively loving. Now, like I said in my disclaimer at the top, I am not a doctor. I do not have any ability to diagnose Joe Biden. But I think what is clear is that he is yelling more so than he did when he was younger. And I think it is a reasonable question to ask. Is he not able to control those impulses the way that you and I don't want to even say younger, people that aren't undergoing some kind of mental issue can? And I think that is a fair question to ask, because a president of the United States does not have that response. I mean, think of all the crazy stuff that Donald Trump said and how he approached people. Nothing was as crazy as what you refer to as barking at the camera. And that cannot be the response of any elected member of our government. The faces that we put out there to the world, much less the guy at the top, Tommy.
Do you think we're going to see that next Thursday night? Do you think we're going to see him getting enraged and barking and angry? I don't know. I feel like he'll have moments where he'll be lucid. That's the best they can offer us, I guess. But I feel like in that debate, in that 90-minute span, there's only, I don't know what you give somebody to make them perform for 90 minutes in that kind of a setting. But I feel like there's a good chance we're going to see him either mumble something incoherent, get angry, do the whisper thing. I'm not sure if it'll be a mixture of all those things, but what is your expectation for Joe? And are we doing the Republican Party a disservice, or the Trump camp a disservice, by setting the bar too low for Joe?
Maybe we're setting the bar too low, and that's going to set up a situation where Trump's not going to be able to meet the expectation. But let's take it from the Trump perspective first, and then I'll do the Biden. I really do think that the people running the Trump campaign this time, pretty good. And I think that as much as you can sort of guide Donald Trump and control, I hate to use the C word, but I think that they are able to get into his head and teach him how he should perform over the course of the 90 minutes. For his sake, I hope a lot of that is allowing Joe Biden to hang himself with his own rope, because going back to what you said earlier, there is probably going to be some semblance of some kind of medication. Again, disclaimer from before, not a doctor, have no idea what that would be. But we've had doctors on programs. I was on Mornings with Maria with Dr. Greg Murphy, congressman, and he said, I know for a fact that he was on something during the State of the Union. That's not me saying that, that's Dr. Murphy. And so you have to imagine they're going to go back to the drug well and put him in position. Can that last a full 90 minutes when it's not on a prompter and not a speech that you have written and you have control over, like the State of the Union? I think you raise an interesting question. But this all comes back to, are the Democrats necessarily concerned about that? Or are they excited because this is their opportunity to replace him?
1,000,000%. You know my thoughts on this, Todd. I think they're setting him up for failure. They're setting him up for failure. And I think that they're going to keep giving him more and more of a leash because they really want to be rid of him. And they're going to say, hey, look, this was so bad. We can't help you anymore, buddy. And they're going to have to tell Jill that, because she's going to have to be, really, it's about her. She is going to have to be so embarrassed next Thursday night that she says, all right, as much as I love power and as much as I want to continue to be the first lady, that was so embarrassing. We're going to have to pack it up and go home. It's going to be on Jill, because Joe is going to watch his performance at some point and he's going to still think he did great. No matter what happens, he's not going to realize how bad he's done if he in fact does poorly.
And I think, going back to another question you asked, do I feel sorry for Joe? I think the more I think about it, if he is in the mental capacity, or having the mental capacity that you and I, and we've discussed ad nauseum on air, then yeah, I do feel sorry for him, because this isn't coming from him. He is being forced to do this by deep state or this advisor, but probably most of all, Jill Biden, who, and this isn't reporting from me, this is in Axios, Politico, they say she really enjoys being first lady. Okay. You really, I enjoy riding unicorns, but, every now and again, you can't get everything you want because it's not reality. And maybe she needs to come to terms a little bit with reality.
There's a lot of reality that could be shared with a lot of folks over there. I still want to know who's running the country, but I guess we're not going to know that one for a while. Todd, I know that you love sports, and there's only a couple sports that I follow, but recently I've been following the WNBA because it's the new UFC. I don't know if you've heard or not, but it's become the new UFC. So I think there's a combination of people that are watching it for Caitlin Clark and people that are watching it to watch Caitlin Clark get beat up on. So the latest WNBA drama, that's what we're talking about. No one's really talking about the games anymore. They're talking about all the cheap shots that are being taken at Caitlin Clark. But from your perspective as a sports fan, do you think that the cat fights and the brawls on the court, do you think that that's going to sustain interest in the WNBA, or do you think eventually people are going to get tired of it?
I think people are going to get tired of it. I think right now, Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon. She brings the eyeballs, but this is not sustainable. And, at some point we all have a limit. I understand Caitlin Clark is really playing the game, and I don't mean the game of basketball. She's playing the public relations game perfectly right now, almost too perfectly. Like she said, like, getting punched in the face is just part of basketball. Carly and I looked at each other like, you're almost too kind right now. At some point, she's going to strike back. Because everybody does. If this happens multiple times a game.
What if she does? What if she says, this girl and this girl, they're taking cheap shots at me. This is not gameplay. This is too far. This is too much. We need an enforcer. You know, and I know exactly what's going to happen if white, straight Caitlin Clark says anything about a teammate who is not white and not straight, or a combination of the two. You know exactly what the narrative is going to be. She cannot win in that circumstance.
Right. But then, to your earlier question, I think then it becomes Kaepernick 2.0, and it drives fans away. And this isn't the NFL, where you have people that set their lives around it, and you're going to drive maybe 10 million people away, 20 million people away, which is what I'm guessing a number that the NFL may have, but they still had most of the country remaining. The NBA doesn't have that kind of runway. You know what I mean? They can't be like driving away quite frankly, the males like me and the casual women's basketball fan like you, because we're going to look away at some point. So they have to figure out what the next step is, because her getting her butt kicked in like this every day is not the answer. Her potentially being on a more competitive team, growing with that team over the course of time. Her team is Indiana, but I'm saying, as Indiana gets better and better, they'll get more attention for winning as opposed to Caitlin Clark being handed her rear. Also, as Caitlin Clark gets better, the better players in the league are going to get older and worse, and she's going to come up and really be even more of a force than she has started out being. But I think you're 100% right. If she did at some point, and I think it's going to happen, but if she does fight back, it's human nature, and she's going to get all the ESPNers coming after her being like, it's racist now. Meantime, she's in there with a bloody face. And to the thing that happened with Angel Reese, I'm not saying here I'm a basketball savant, but you can clearly distinguish between somebody's head and the ball. And as somebody who couldn't score worth a you-know-what when he was playing basketball, and his number one job was being a pest and playing defense, that's a move that I would make, going after the head. I was a really bad basketball player, and I got kicked out of games. So take that for what it's worth, Tomi Lahren.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't name 4 WNBA teams for you. I really can only name 2, and it's the Chicago Sky, I guess, and the Indiana Fever, and I only know them because of the drama, and I only watch the clips of the WNBA when they're on social media, because I could never sit through a WNBA broadcast. I could never sit through an NBA broadcast. Those ratings are also down.
Totally agree.
I'm just going to stick to baseball. That's really the only sport. For now, they're not full on attacking each other. Sometimes that changes.
Not yet.
But, I'm just going to stick to that because that's what I know. And we'll see if Caitlin Clark finds her voice. I kind of hope, for her sake that she takes a while before she does that, because the pile on her is going to get worse. But Todd, I will see you next Tuesday morning around 4:30 a.m. my time. And I know that you're on daddy duty right now, so best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you. And Tomi, before you let me go, I think we can all agree I am much better asking the questions than I am answering them. I hope I didn't mess this up too poorly, for Tomi Lahren is fearless.
No, Todd, you're welcome back anytime. I always appreciate our chats.
Woo-hoo!
And next time I will bring in some more sports things, and we can discuss more sports. But first, I'd have to give a damn about sports, so maybe just baseball. But next time I'll bring in some sports, because I know that is also a passion of yours.
And it has to be, because you need something to justify watching the New York Football Giants every Sunday in the fall. You have to be passionate about it, because otherwise it's just sad. It's just a sad state of affairs, Tomi Lahren.
Well, you know what? The Mets are doing well ever since they had that McDonald's character throughout the first pitch. So we're just clinging on to that over in Mets country. Oh, thanks, Todd, so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Tommy.
Or you can continue, Todd, because this is a podcast. So if you've got more to say, listen, you can say it. I don't have to go to Steve Ducey on the curvy couch. We're good.
Sports, masks. What else did we talk about today? Now I'm spinning my wheels, Tomi Lahren. Now you get to see the real Todd in action. I want to ask you a question, because that's the thing that I'm somewhat good at. Were you a baseball fan prior to marriage, let's say?
I've always been a baseball fan. It's the only sport that I find interesting and intriguing. So I've always been a baseball fan. Now I'm a Mets fan. And like I said, since that little character threw out the first pitch, everything's been going well for us. So I'm just hoping and clinging on to that. And, maybe someday we'll go to a Mets game. I know you're a Yankees fan. So maybe one of these days a Mets game is in our future, Todd.
That would be awesome. Because going to Citi Field is unbelievable. Like it's a much better stadium than Yankee Stadium. And my wife did go to Syracuse, so I know your hubs, I believe, is currently in Syracuse right now. Am I mistaken, or is he still Syracuse? He is still in Syracuse, and I will be there this weekend watching more AAA baseball. So next Tuesday, maybe I can give you a full rundown of what happened in AAA in Syracuse over the weekend. But I have to go to my final thoughts now, but I will talk to you soon. Now that I know that you've got that home studio, we'll bring you back and we'll have some more great discussions, Todd. I appreciate your time. Make it. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for having me, Tommy. All right, folks. The rules for the first presidential debate are in, and while CNN might have it stacked in Biden's favor beyond a full-body transplant, I'm not sure anything will save Joe. It's time for final thoughts. All right, to ensure fairness, debate parameters have been locked in by CNN. Yes, that sentence is an oxymoron. Fairness and CNN go together like toothpaste and your morning coffee. But look, we've always known the fight for Donald Trump is never going to be fair. He agreed to this debate knowing that, and we know the scales will never be purposefully tilted towards Donald Trump, not by any of the debate organizers anyway. But the network aside, let's take a look at some of the rules. There will be 2 commercial breaks during the 90-minute duel, and the candidates will not be able to consult with other members of their campaign during those commercial breaks. The podiums and positions will be determined by a coin flip. Their mics will only be hot during their allotted speaking and response time. No props or prepared notes will be allowed, and each candidate will only be given a pen, notepad, and a bottle of water. And for the first time in recent history, there will be no studio audience. I'd imagine this is to eliminate the possibility of a little terrorist heckling in support of jihad or intifada. Now, these rules don't seem too unreasonable to me, pretty standard stuff, but I still have questions. Will they be drug tested or checked for earpieces ahead of the debate? If Joe has to be pumped up with something, we should know what that something is. The no prepared notes rule is great, but do we know that Joe won't be given the questions ahead of time? These are valid questions. And speaking of questions, will the so-called neutral moderators with a recorded history of bashing Trump be asking questions voters actually give a damn about, like the economy and the wide open border? Or is this going to be another worthless virtue signal with fake concerns about transgender migrants impacted by climate change because we deserve better? I also think it's a mistake for the right to set the bar so low for Joe Biden. We've created a narrative that if he manages to stand and stay awake, that's a good night. Don't give the left that out, my friends. Let's set our expectations high for Joe and let the cookie or the ice cream cone crumble where it may. But those are just my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow live again at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tomi Lahren is Fearless. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you'll never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday and I hope you'll join me.